Welcome to episode 10, January 16th, 2025 of News with a View. And this is a Fat Cat production. Uh, my name is John A. Costa, your host, with a cold still. That's been going on forever. So that's just the way it's going to be. Uh, Tonight, well, yeah, it says morning uh, on the banner. It's not. It's the late afternoon, and due to a technical issue, I'm redoing this podcast. At least I had it on video. So let's get started on the record, and we're going to report on the Hill. We all know what the Hill is. It's a service on most of the websites, news websites, and Biden using his last days in office to give America what it rejected in his executive orders. The answer strictly is yes, but a lot of presidents have done that, so it is a big deal because of the way he's been doing it. Is unprecedented. It's unprecedented, and it's just going to get worse. So I don't know what the there's going to be things that President Trump can do to untangle some of this, but some of it's not. It's just not fixable. Uh, and that that's the power of the president. Got to live with it and hope they do wise decisions and wise moves. I can tell you right now, that's not the case. So, what did he do? He took potentially productive oil and mining uh, acreage lands uh, away from our United States strategic uh, uh, resource pools and made them inaccessible. It puts us again behind the eight ball to go to foreign powers who are basically hostile to us and have to go hat in hand to them and hope that they'll give us a good deal. On one side, you could say, well, he's preserving the land. He's acting as a good steward on some of this property and these lands, but that's not the case. He did this just to uh, honestly the left, and Biden is left, hates oil, hates the whole idea of it, and he put a kibosh on it. The, of course, the commutations of death sentences. And that's been done before, but never to this extent, and to some of the people that he did uh, commute their death sentences to life sentences without parole. Uh, yeah, I think there'll be a lot of talk about that. Uh, for a guy who's, I'm all for law and order. Well, obviously he's not, because we have a system in place, and yes, nothing's perfect, but it's our system, and he just, I'm going to let these guys live in prison, and I'm not saying it's a cakewalk, or I'm not saying, hey, this is, they're staying at the Ritz-Carlton. Uh, that's not the case, but they're not supposed to be staying in the Ritz-Carlton. Uh, they were supposed to be put to death, many of them, 15, 20 years ago. The other thing that's also going on with the Biden legacy is, of course, the people that he put into very high administrative positions. And presidents do that. One is Rohit Chapara. Now he's the consumer protection watchdog agent. You know, he's going after banking legislations. In the last since the election, I think he put in 5 new regulations, and they're all against what he calls oligopoly, or it's Oligopoly. And really what it means is a uh, a group that has now they're the only game in town, and so that's what's going on with that. And he said that it's his sentiment that any of these big hedge funds and money market fund managers, I mean big ones, are the problem, and that he is now stepping in, making regulations that will stop a lot of these hedge fund companies and becoming private banks, and thus being able to write loans, and and what happens is those loans and assets then get, not the loan so much, but the assets of that bank are protected by FDIC. So if they're making lousy loans, or ones that yeah, they meet the safety and soundness of writing loans, but if they fail, well, the FDIC comes in, makes the depositors whole, and it goes on. So what he's trying to do is limit these companies from being able to start a bank. And on the surface, this sounds, it sounds reasonable. You don't want companies that are just out there to take money and push it out the door and then go belly up, and then, go to the FDIC and say, hey, bail out my depositors, and, the government has to eat those loans. And that's what ends up happening. They bundle them, they sell them to the next, for pennies on the dollars, to the next hedge fund. Um, it it really does scream of socialism, that you're going to stop the marketplace, and you're going to step in and you're going to put the government in there. Now it's interesting because Robert Kennedy Jr. Also had a major problem with big business coming in and buying private homes, and then cornering the market on them, paying above prices on it, and then scooping them up and creating a vacuum in the market, which raises it up higher. And they go and they really game the market. So there's some truth in what is what they're trying to stop, but it really has to do with the left, with power, and they don't like anyone in power but themselves. So that's an issue that will need to be looked at again by Trump and his administration coming in. And Biden has monkeyed around with, and then when I say Biden, it's his administration. He owns it. It's his. Just like when Trump screws up, it's his. And that's just the way it goes. You own it. I apologize. I still have this cold. It is getting a little better, but it's still 5 weeks. I'm moving on. Israel and Hamas had come to a tentative agreement to end, to put a ceasefire. It's not going to end the conflict, but to put a ceasefire in place and the return of the hostages. That hit a snag. As of this afternoon, it hit a snag. I haven't looked to see, in the last hour or so. And it really has to do, the snag isn't with the hostages or anything like that. It's putting Israeli troops on the border of Egypt and Gaza and stopping really the illicit trade going back and forth, which is always, guns and everything else. And they have a problem with that. So I got a problem that, they took human shields. So let's hope that they work that out. Biden was taking credit, and all right, for working out this deal with his uh, negotiator and the country Qatar. I think a lot of it had to do, and this is personal, that Trump had come out and said, "Hey, if I take over, when I take over on the 20th, you know, there better not be a hostage situation, or there's going to be hell to pay." And I think they looked at it and they go, "Well, hey, listen, maybe it's time to cut a deal." And let's hope that that's the case. Let's hope that a ceasefire, and I mean a meaningful ceasefire. But I never believe any of the Arab countries. Sorry. Probably the one that has probably the best standing is Saudi Arabia. But the rest of them, yeah, no. Nope. They've never lived up to a treaty yet, and never will. So, and of course, I'm surprised Biden would be okay with protecting a border, so and having Israeli troops on a border, since we seem to have a problem with borders. Ashley Moody is going to be the next Republican senator out of Florida, replacing Marco Rubio, who is going to become the Secretary of State under Trump. So Moody was the replaced Pam Bundy as the Florida Attorney General. I'm pretty sure that was like in 2018 or 19. So she comes with a lot of experience and will make a good fit into the Senate. So we're happy about that. It's good. Marco Rubio is going to make a fantastic Secretary of State. And I think that he comes in with a lot of credentials and a lot of people on both sides of the aisle that respect him, and a lot of, foreign, and that's basically what he's going to be doing, respect him. So I think that is a very, very good match and a good placement. That's probably one of there's a couple of them that I like with that Trump has done, and a couple that I'm like, a little question about. But Speaker Johnson removes a House Intelligence Committee chairperson, and the chairman was a strong voice for arms and backing of the Ukraine against Russia, and actually went counter to some of the things that Trump had said. So I'm sure behind closed doors, it was said to Johnson, "Hey, be nice if this guy is gone before I take office, because when I take office, I'm going to push to get him out of here anyway, and I have problems with him. Not me personally. I think he did a fairly decent job for what he was doing, but." Again, what are we being told on the real intelligence coming out of our government? I don't trust anything any of them say, and including everyone. I mean, not just the Democrats. I'll question the Republicans, because the old saying, if it sounds too good to be true, it usually is. Also, the chairman really went after Trump when Trump said about, in Ohio the people are eating the illegals are eating pets. So I'm sure Trump remembered that and said, "Hey, this guy's got to go. He's got too much luggage at this point, too much baggage. I'm not carrying it." So that's what's going on there. But Senator Harino out of I think that's how you pronounce the name, out of Amazi Harino, out of Hawaii, Democrat, of course. Uh, I mean, the questions that she asks. I mean, I have to question: is this person balanced? Um, it's just off the wall stuff that I realize it's her job to kick the tires on anyone coming through, and check them out. And hey, like I said in another podcast, if you ever sat in front of or watched Senator Kennedy ask questions of Democrats and people that Biden was appointing to federal judges and things like that, I mean, I wouldn't want to be in front of that guy, even if I had nothing that I did wrong, and it I just wouldn't want to be there. He's a very intimidating figure. He has all the facts, and he'll read the questions in certain ways that make it sound sinister and questionable when it really wasn't questionable or sinister. People are allowed to have their opinions. People are allowed to express their opinions, and people can be wrong with their opinions. It happens, and you go, well, we want people that are the best and don't make mistakes. Well, when you find one of those people, point him to me because I haven't seen that. And so that the Senate hearings, you know, uh, the Yahoos and the MSNBCs and the MSN, and they're saying, oh, it's a harsh and tough, and they're really putting it to these nominees, and the real reality is we got 53% of the House, and even if everyone votes the party, these people are getting in. So they're just getting in their kick time, and that's fine. We did it, and the red did it. The blue gets to do it. All right. So not to me a very big deal. It's just the questions. You ask intelligent questions. Heard some of these questions, and some of them were intelligent questions. You want to know the answer. What was going through your mind at that time when you made that comment. Has anything changed since that time? And that's fine. But just some of the stuff they bring up, it's just holy man, it's not germane to the situation, and it wouldn't matter even if it came up. It has nothing to do with what their official acts would be. So that's what's going on there. In the fire news, which is of course still going on, and of course the finger pointing as everyone's doing this and that and this, and there's a lot of questions on what happened to money that was allocated years ago for things that never happened. And again, if that was money that was given in federal grants, and uh, who looked at them, and who in the federal government looked at it to say, hey, hey, we gave you $50 million to do this. What do we got to show for it? So a lot of questions there. Governor Newsom ordered that property sales in the fire zones and in certain zip codes, which is the best way to do it too. He's restricting the sales And when I say restrict, he's saying that it's to stop predator buyers and predator lending. And I understand what he's doing. Because during disasters, people might just say, "That's it. I'm out of here. I give up. I've had enough. I can't take this again. Um, make me an offer, and I'm out of here." Which is allowed. I mean, I don't think that anyone would say that that is a that predator. Uh, but you're gonna have people that are waiting for money, and you're gonna have companies, equity firms, that come in and they go, "Listen, we don't want your property. We're not interested in buying you outright, but we're prepared to give you $200,000 right now if you give us 1/3 of your property rights." And on top, you don't have to tell your insurance company you got this money or sold or anything. It's you're insured. You're going to get your money. But in the meantime, we're going to give you $200,000 on $1 million piece of property. We want 1/3 of the property rights. And in all those 60 pages that people will be initialing with a lawyer or not a lawyer or whatever, will be little clauses such as, if you fall behind on your primary loan, if you had a primary loan, or if you fall behind on paying your property taxes, or someone puts a lien against you, it's an automatic default. And we get to go in and buy that first mortgage. Or we take over and the property's ours. They'll file a foreclosure, they'll file, whatever it is that they do, and these people are out. Now, they might get something when the property is sold. And, you could put a brand new house on that, because you got it through insurance and you fall on hard times, and then all of a sudden, they step in and they go, "Well, that 1/3 is now 100% because you didn't fulfill your obligation of the note." And it really is a note. And most notes say, if you took out an equity loan on your house and you paid your equity loan, uh, flawlessly, but you fall behind on your first mortgage, the first mortgage puts you in the foreclosure, the other loan automatically goes into foreclosure and becomes payable. So both of these people come in, depending on how much the note is for. That second mortgage goes to that bank and goes, "Hey, here's the deal, we'll give you X amount." Now they got 100%, and they go after you and throw you out. And so what Newsom is trying to do is stop predator buying and predator lending. And it's a good idea. Got into a little tidbit with Ted Cruz, who says this really hampers homeowners who you're taking that choice away. If I have property here and I just want to get out of Dodge, give me money, I'll take 60%, But what Newsom is saying, you can't sell that property for anything less than the market value of that property was before the fire. Now, you might not have a house on there or anything, and that property, is, destroyed. Right? You can't. You got to find someone who's going to buy it as if they see a house there. What do you think the chances of that happening is? Yeah, exactly. It's not going to happen. And Cruz had said this is, puts a little dent in some people. Not all people, but some people. In that same vein, homeowners are going to find out that even if they're insured and they're going to rebuild and they're going to do this, their insurance doesn't rehabilitate the property. So if you had a car that burned there and it damaged the environment, well, you got to remedy that. At a minimum, you got to get the car off your property. You got to clean the property up. You got to make it safe and habitable again. Insurance companies don't cover that. they'll say, no, we'll cover your car, we'll give you the money for the car, and we'll give you the money for your house. But the rest of the property, nope. A structure, if you had a garage or a barn or something, that's different. Most of us have insurance for all that stuff. But for the property itself, if somehow your neighbor next to you had, tractors and they burned and they leaked fuel and oil and everything onto your property, you have to fix that. Now, you might be able to sue them, but, good luck. 20 years down the road, you might get some type of settlement. But it's up to you as the homeowner and owner of the property to remedy that situation. And most insurance companies do not cover that. So they're going to be on the hook for that. And at least for now, I don't know if California, and I'm sure California will enact laws saying you can't do that. You gotta. It's the whole property, and you gotta figure in everything. And insurance companies will sue the state, and the lawyers will win, and it'll be a bad day. And those bad days are just going to start compounding and compounding and compounding. And it's going to be interesting looking at it. It's going to be horrible for the people that are experiencing it. So that's what's going on with the fire. Of course, the finger pointing is all still going on. I'm sorry. This is bad right now. Rudy Giuliani settled his defamation suit that's against him for defaming election workers. And the government felt that $148 million was a good number for telling, people they lied, they cheated, they, boom, boom. And he defamed them. Okay, all right, he defamed them. There are people, there are children that are maimed, killed by accidents, by a product, by, a drug company that, lucky if they get $2 million. And here a judge said, no, it's worth $148 million because he made you feel bad. And these people are so hurt by this that they can't leave their house. They can't go shopping. They can't do everything. They can't go outside and show their face, right? 148 million bucks. Now, this was done for the simple reason was that they want to make an example. If you question, if you accuse, if you go, and now, you could say, yeah, they cheated, they did this, we know what's going on, you lied. All right, they could take action of slander and defamation, but I would be hard-pressed to see someone that was getting, $16.80 an hour or whatever the election people were paying them for their time. Or the officials that were being paid, $100,000 a year, where it was worth $148 million because these people didn't lose their jobs or anything. So I'm hoping that Giuliani can go after the judgments and stuff and get these back down into real world numbers. Now, he might have settled, and that's it. I haven't read the documents, and it might not ever come out because he might have had everyone sign a non-disclosure agreement, and that's going to be the end of it. It's over. And part of that agreement with the courts could be that I'm not going to come back for a second bite of the apple. They're not going to come back for a second bite of the apple. This ends. It is now over, and that's the way that will work. I mean, the guy lost a lot, and this was done against Giuliani and some others to go, you ever challenge us again, any of you, let that be a lesson to you and you and you and you. You challenge us, we're coming after you. And we will ruin you. And we will crush you. And uh, you better think 10 times before you do it. Before you go, hey, I think there might have been a problem. No, 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 no. We're coming after you. And that's exactly what happened. Now, Giuliani and some of these other people might have gone overboard, and I don't know if they were given an opportunity to back down and they, hey, I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. I know what you did. You know, I want to go to court with this, and this is where it ends up. So, yeah, it would certainly make me think twice about going to Georgia and calling someone a liar, or a cheat, or a thief, or a criminal for screwing around with an election. It would make me think twice, even if I had, hey, I'm 99% sure there were shenanigans, but and that 1%, gee, I don't like those numbers, and that's it. Anyone that thinks that that wasn't the case here, yeah, they don't know politics. So, all right, we're good with that. We got a lot of stuff off the table here, and now we go to if any of you read the Harris. She made some type of comment, and it was a comment. It was not a comment. She was addressing the fire victims and telling them they have to be patient, and this isn't the time to do this. And I'm not saying she's not right. She, it's not that the time isn't right. It's just that no one can do anything about it yet. We know you're hurting. We know what's going on here, and the president has opened up everything. He's told the governor that we're going to stand behind you 100% for the next 180 days. We're going to help you. We're going to give the money right away to the victims so they can buy some clothes and stuff. They lost everything. Everything is gone. They got nothing. A lot of these people are burned out of their homes. Nothing. The clothes on their back that they were able to run out the door. And, they don't even have a car. I mean, a lot of these people, you ever been in Los Angeles, try to use mass transit? Yeah, exactly. So, she had said something, and it was very typical Harris, uh, the word salad, and you couldn't figure out what she was trying to say, and the people got offended. A lot of people got offended by it, and told her that hey, you're living in Washington, even though California was your state, you're not here. You weren't affected by this. So the idea of hey, wait, you gotta, these people don't want to hear that. That's not a good thing to say. So did she say anything that wasn't the truth? No, she spoke the truth. It's just that she might have been a little bit more sympathetic in there and going, hey, we know, everyone is anxious. And we're doing what we can do right now. The fires aren't even out yet. We can't even assess what's going on. But in the meantime, we're going to make sure you're taken care of. We're finding, alternate housing, and and money for you, and we're doing what we can do. And it's not even hang on. They're being hung on to, but people want to see. They want to see something, and you couldn't have asked at a worse time. You're in between administrations, and literally, what do they got? 4 more days left. So, It's a bad time for them, and they don't know what's going to happen. If Joe Biden was going to be the president, or Harris was going to be the president, they would know. They should go, "This is my plan. This is what we're going to do," and boom, I'm going to be here. But now you have a new administration, and they don't know, so they're worried about it. And you have Republicans that are saying, "Hey, we want strings on the money." And I can understand that. I want to make sure the money goes to where the money's supposed to go. But you have people going, no, it can't have any strings on it, no strings. And really be truthful with you, that ain't going to happen. Not happening. There's going to be strings. Will there be a lot of strings? I mean, like I said, I don't want to see where they're pulling it, and you're following after and try to get it, and they're pulling it. No, that can't be. That can't be. That's got to be realistic. If we're giving $500 million for housing, I want to see $500 million go to housing. I don't want to see, well, 200 million went over here and 100 million went over there, and this went to some company that's going to put curtains up for it. No, it has to go for what it's meant for, and we have to have eyes on the ground, feet on the ground, and accountability. We're not talking. I mean, you talk. In the beginning, they said, "Oh, it could be a loss of up to $50 billion." Who are they kidding? $50 billion. You're talking at 500 billion, maybe even $1 trillion when the dust all settles in 4 years from now. You start adding everything up, because there's just no way you're going to rebuild these houses, in any time less than 18 months, and that's sending in a Pulte home builder, a DB Horton, that doesn't build one house, but they build 1,000 houses at a time. They got to get the material, you got to get the labor, you got to get the permits, you got to get the infrastructure, and the infrastructure might be all right on the streets, but the streets have to be clean, they have to be redone. A lot of them have been damaged. All the piping has to be redone back out to the streets. They got burned. You might get it up, to where the house was, but it might not meet existing code anymore. So there's a lot, and you have to get companies that know what they're doing, and are a Del Webb, or that's what they do. They build. Now the good news is that Trump is a builder, and you're not going to pull the wool over his eyes. And he's going to go out there and he goes, "I want to see what's going on here. I built a bridge, and they said it was going to take 5 years. I did it in 2. And under budget. So if I was Trump, I'd be out there every month, and I'd be pressing the flesh. And I wouldn't be putting down the local government or the governor or anything like that. Like, hey, we're working here as a partnership. We're going to put some of this difference behind us, and we'll fight that 4 years from now. But right now, you're our main concern. And we want to make sure that the money I'm giving over here from the right hand gets to the left hand and then gets to you. And no one's taking it and putting it in their pockets and walking away or cheating you." So I think most of the people can get behind that and go, yeah, we want the money coming to us, not to someone else. And I think Trump has a tremendous opportunity to use that to his advantage. And like I said, every disaster presents opportunities. You just have to look at it. And you can't get greedy about it. But you can, there are people that are going to profit handsomely, financially and politically, from this. But read the story for yourself. It's all out there. It's in all the things. That Harris took a lot of blowback for this. The other item in the news was Joe Biden gave a interview with the Washington Post, and in the interview, she said she was very disappointed with Pelosi and how she handled her husband and the president, and that they had 50 years of friendship. And, uh, you know, if anyone should have known about loyalty and friendship and the knife in your back, it should have been the Bidens. They were masters at it. Masters. And she put the knife in Biden's back. And not because she didn't like him, but because he was going to cost her party, and she was the party. They already gave up on the White House. They knew they were going to lose the White House. They didn't want to lose the Congress. And they didn't want to. They had dreams of, taking the Senate and making it impossible for, Donald Trump to do anything except through executive order, and then they would scream just like the Republicans did when Congress did nothing in the Senate, and everyone, did nothing. And Biden then goes, hey, I'll make an executive order. Now, the difference is, Biden, to me, was that, he used it a lot. But I wouldn't say he used it wisely, but he used it. Trump will go, hey, you know what? I can do this. Why are we having this argument? Congress won't do it? Yeah, there you go. Yeah. You got till Tuesday of next week, and then after that, I'm making an executive order. And, next problem, and I'll solve it. If you won't solve it, they elected me to solve it. And I'll solve it for you, which then does away with Congress. We have Congress for a reason. Now that Congress is, and I know the Congresses of both the Senate and the stuff, but the House of Representatives and the Senate now are red. And if they want to sit there and vote the party line, and everything that Trump says, and again, Trump is Trump. He's gonna do that, and who wouldn't? The Democrats would do it, in a heartbeat. That's what they're there for. So Jill Biden said that it is her belief and her opinion that Joe Biden would have won an election against Trump. Now, okay, if she really believes that, she needs to be checked out, and so does the environmental air in the White House, because something's wrong. There's no way that Joe Biden would win. After the debate, his fate was sealed. People were just, taken back, and there was no coming back from that. And Pelosi saw that, and she even admitted she strong-armed him to back out of the race. And I mean, what could they have done? They only had Harris to go to, so they conceded the White House. I don't care what anyone says; they conceded the White House. They used her to run around and get money for the war chest, and that will be used for the next election and for the midterms. And barring anything horrible with Trump and his administration, if the Republicans take the midterms too and grab some more seats and really cement their will on the houses, it'll be 10 years before you ever see a Democrat of any substantial consequences get get in office. The you know the fact is that they tried to you know they tried to sell America a bad product, and the Americans saw it, and I'm sure most of them didn't like voting for Trump. They would have liked to vote for someone else, but they were not going to vote for Harris. Harris could not even win her primaries. It never got even to the primaries in 2016. She just, never had that type of support. And again, I said this in an earlier podcast that she was sacrificial. She's never going to run for anything again. Oh, she's going to run for the governor. It's not going to happen. Stop. She's done. She's done. And it was easy if they were to put someone else up there that had a political future. That would end with you can't if you couldn't be the head guy, we're not going to make you the fifth guy. We'll get someone else. So and she was a good soldier. So one thing I will say about Harris, Trump and Pelosi and the Democrats told her this is what you're going to do, and by golly, she went out there and done it. She did everything she was told to do. Speak here. This is what we want you to say. Go over here. Ask these people for money. Collect the money. Bring it back, and then go out and do it again. And she did it. So Harris was a good foot soldier. She did what she was told to do. And that I won't take that away from her. As far as anything else, oh my God. But, Biden would never put anyone in there that would challenge him. And that's why Harris didn't choose Shapiro to run with her. Because Shapiro would look at her and go, yeah, okay, I'm not doing that. That's great. That's not going to work, and for all these reasons. And, the president needs a yes person. And Shapiro was not going to be a yes person. Walz, it was a hayseed. This was going to be his claim. This is great. This is wonderful. I can't believe it. Because, really no one else wanted the job. No one else, they knew. They knew that this was a one-way mission. And they were like, yeah, maybe next time. I'm busy, the next 3 months. I can't do it. So, and so now I don't know which one was more delusional. Trump or his wife, who said she could win. And even Trump had come out, and even Biden had come out and said, I would win against Trump. Really? Where? Where? Any show that Biden was on, they fed him softball questions. ABC edited, edited Harris. They, fixed it up and souped it up and rearranged words. And Biden, when he was on the campaign and talking, 15-second snippets. That's all you saw of him. Was if they showed a 10-minute speech that he gave, people would go, oh my God, get Grandpa off the stage. Someone get Grandpa. And they didn't do that. The media, perpetrated one of the biggest frauds on America in collusion with the Democrats. And that is something that we should not have. Now, you go back, to what, the Spanish-American War, Cuba. Don't worry, the war's not going, but you furnish me the pictures, I'll furnish you the war. Remember that? You learned that in school? So, this isn't anything new with the media. It's just that now there's so many sources for you to go to this too. Not that 49 people have seen this thing, but you could never be done before, unless I stood out on a corner somewhere on a soapbox and banged a pot and had people listen to me. Uh, this is a new media. This is a new way of doing it. People for a couple of $100 can reach millions. So it's interesting, and that's why we don't need a newspaper anymore. Really, you don't need it. Uh, you have a way of now getting out there and getting the views across. I'm not saying the views are right. I'm not saying the people are right. I'm not saying I'm right, though I'm always right. If only everyone would listen to me. What a wonderful world. But that's what we're all facing now. We're facing that you can get opinions, and you could put your opinions out there. Before you couldn't do it. You might do it playing cards and talking to a couple of people, or even going to a political, a Republican rally or a Democrat rally or whatever your affiliation is, and speak to people. And that's about it. That's about as far as it got now. Sky's the limit. And there is no truth segment here. I this is a vlog, a podcast. I'm not the news. I'm just reporting what the news is reporting to all of us, and then putting my spin on it. So, could I be as bad as the newspapers were, and as bad as the media? We sure can be. I try not to. And this is like the 10th episode that I've done, and probably about only 2 times I went off the rails on stuff, but it was common sense stuff and stuff that really, really bothered me. One was going after Hunter Biden the way they went after him, and one was the way they went after Trump and his people. Yeah, that was bad, because would the Democrats had just left Trump alone, they say he would have been his worst enemy. He'd be saying stuff and going online, and people would go, "Oh my God, this guy's out of his mind," or "What is he posting?" But they gave him a platform, and then they gave him a cause, and he was able to say, "They're coming after me because I'm trying to protect you guys, and so when they come after me, they're coming after you." And he got very good at doing that. And was that the case? I would say that they were going after Trump. We'll never, ever know exactly what the truth was. We're still, like I said, we're still waiting to know what really happened with JFK from 1963. So I don't think that we'll ever get to the truth. But when you see how viciously they went after Trump, and tried and tried and tried, and Trump had, he's a fighter. He wasn't going to give up. He wasn't going to let money stand in his way either. He had a lot of people giving him the money to do that, but he was a fighter. He is a fighter, and he's a counterpuncher. And people seem to forget that he'll take a couple of punches, and boy, they were severe punches. Who won this fight? Yeah, exactly. So would they have left him alone? Except, and I said this before, the documents. That was the only case the government had, truly against Trump, that had any meat to it. And that was the easiest one for Trump to just work out a deal, and here's your paperwork, and I'm going to still say it's mine, and we're going to go to court, and you can't release that. And they go, well, the top secret documents, we're not going to release it. That's why we're here. So he could have gotten a huge compromise, and probably would have won the majority of his arguments with it. But instead, they challenged him. And then they charged him. And then he went to the Supreme Court and goes, "This is what the Constitution says. This is what I can do and as president. And this is," and he solidified the power of the president. Now, it's good for Biden right now. It's going to be good for Trump. I don't know how good it will be for Vance if he becomes president or anyone else, but you have to realize that at some point in time, there's going to be Democrats sitting there, or a liberal, or a progressive, who will have the same powers that Trump had. And really, he said, "I got these powers, these mysterious powers, and it's been basically vetted." I have a good friend, Robert B. from New York, who says that it was the fix was in from the Supreme Court. I'm sorry. I think the Supreme Court has always been somewhat political in nature, but for the most part, they go by the letter and the intent of laws, and to make an opinion or a ruling on anything that's brought to them. Remember, the Supreme Court doesn't make the laws; they interpret them, and they see that they fit into the United States Constitution, or if the state laws impede against the United States Constitution. Remember, the rights flow down from the federal government down to the states. So, if it's allowed by the federal government and protected under the federal government, then the states have to honor that. If there's no mention in the Constitution of a particular, and again, we'll go to the easy one, abortion. Then the state gets to say what their state will allow on that particular subject. And they could say, yes, abortion's for everyone. They could say, abortion's for no one. And they've said, and I mean, in some cases, really, that's what it came down to. But it's not protected. The federal government has said, there's nothing in it. And they said, well, Roe v. Wade. Well, that was just a ruling, an opinion, and they get reversed because, again, there's nothing in the Constitution. You could go to them and say, is this covered under the Constitution under this particular heading? And the heading that they used with abortion was privacy, and it was like, even Ruth Bader Ginsburg had said that was horrible law. And it was meant to be undone. And I think that you had a court that go, yeah, this is bad law. And give it to the states. Let the states decide. And that's what happened. But the states did that a long time ago. So a lot of this was just nonsense stuff. Abortions weren't outlawed. Abortions, if your state allowed it, it allowed it. The federal government was going to say, oh, no, you can't do it. No, we're stopping it. And the cry of the federal government doing that under Trump has already said, I'm not interested in that. I was interested in giving power back to the state because the state knows what's good for their people. The federal government might, what's good for Illinois is horrible for New Mexico. So, let each state decide on constitutional issues that aren't addressed or items not addressed by the United States Constitution, put them into their own Constitution. And that was an important decision. Some of the other decisions made by the Supreme Court, and I think people are going to be very surprised. I think there's going to be a lot of people surprised what the Supreme Court's going to come out and say. I already written it down in an envelope and I got it sealed in my drawer. And I'm gonna probably next week have it notarized, that stamped that this has been closed, and I'm 3 for 3 already on Supreme Court decisions that I've said this is how they're going to rule, and this is going to be their argument. And I'd like to go. I'd like to be 4 for 4. And again, I think people are going to be very surprised by what the Supreme Court says. And of course, that's with the birthright citizenship. And again, I have books on it, on the intent and the writing of it, and what was meant by almost every word that was put in there. And I think that's what the robes are going to look at. And some of the robes will go, no, well, yes, that's what it meant then, but that doesn't pertain now. And that's where the argument will really happen. And that's the same argument Jack Smith had, where he wanted to charge Trump, everyone, sedition and treason and stuff, and he goes, you can't do it. The law of 100 years ago doesn't fit today. And when he said it doesn't fit, and people go, what do you mean it doesn't fit? It's the same. No, he understood what the law meant 100 years ago. And he couldn't force a square peg into a round hole. He knew he couldn't do it. If he did it, then a Supreme Court could go, hey, that this whole case is based incorrectly. Your assumptions were wrong. And regardless of how you saw the picture, that's not what the picture is saying. And, you're wrong. So he went after fraud, to go after the president for fraud, for defrauding the American people by saying there was an election fraud. And that, there was cheating done, and he was cheated. And again, I said it yesterday, I'll say it again. All Trump had to do was prove one case of fraud. And that would be gone. And the government has already acknowledged that there was some fraud. And was it substantial? No, it meant nothing. But they stopped and they said, no, that's, that was, 10 people, maybe 100 at worst. And we're not spending that money to look for 100. And Trump's argument was, well, if you found one and you think there was 100, why couldn't there be 100,000? Tell me why. And they'd have to concede that, well, we didn't look because we just didn't see it, but we found one. And we said, yeah, probably if we dug a little deeper, we'd find more. But we found one that just stood out at us. That's one case. That's one case. And if they had prosecuted anyone of election, voting that they weren't supposed to vote, well, that's fraud. So Trump could say, hey, if someone tells me they're pregnant, I don't ask by how much. You either are or you aren't. And they would have lost that case. Now, there's other things, and my friend Bob and I, we love arguing back and forth and hitting one another with stuff, and it's funny to watch us. I wish he was here, and I miss Bob dearly. But there are other issues, where he goes, well, what about the electoral people? And I go, oh no, that's a state. That's not what the January 6th was looking for. So that's a whole different thing. And, I said, I agree with you. If you lied and deceived, yeah, you're going to get in trouble for that. But that wasn't what Jack Smith was there to do. It was January 6th. And in Florida, looking at the document case, Judge Cannon ruled it wasn't appointed correctly. So none of this matters at this point. And they went back and forth, and they challenged, and boom, and she goes, enough, it's dismissed. Bye. You want to refile, go ahead, refile, go through it all. But, Trump would then get to say, you can't use this. This is, the fruit of the poison tree. And he knew that was over. He knew that was over. And that was a case they could have won. But he wasn't appointed correctly. Yeah, it's a technicality. Technicalities matter. So now that technicality could also have gone towards, if he was wrong in Florida, why wasn't he wrong in the District of Columbia? If he wasn't empowered to investigate or prosecute, how could he bring charges here on the same? And they knew that at that point it was over. They got out lawyered is really what happened. They got out lawyered. And Garland said, hey, well, I was just doing what, everyone else did. From Nixon, boom, this was the, and they go, yeah, because Nixon never challenged it. Maybe if he did, they would have come up and said, yeah, that investigator or this or that or whatever, but they never did. And, Cannon, in her wisdom, said, wasn't appointed correctly. He should not have even looked. He should have never been able to get a warrant. And she didn't realize this until the lawyers went and said, hey, how was he appointed? Wasn't he supposed to go through this, and this? And then they started looking, and they go, well, yeah, kind of. But, if you look at the 4 other times or 5 other times this had been done, and probably including by Barr and everyone else, it was never questioned. Well, because it was never questioned doesn't mean it was, right thing to do. Past practice of violating a law doesn't make the law null and void. It just means that someone didn't do their job, or, these lawyers did a better job than anyone else. So you take your choice on how you swallow that pill, but you're swallowing that pill. And would they have not done that and tried to ram this all down the Americans' throat? I think Trump would have lost that. Trump would have probably not even been able to win the primaries. But instead, they gave him airtime. He got up there and say, hey, they're screwing me, which means they're screwing you. And, this guy's lying. And, they're this and, horrible, despicable, worse, and now they called us garbage. Yeah. And the other thing is, all you heard from the left, all Republicans, all MAGAs, anyone who doesn't support our thinking, they're stupid, ignorant, contemptible. Yeah. I'm going to tell you guys, you better change your game. And I don't see you changing your game. That is someplace you got comfortable going to. And until the animal dies that's going to it, you're going to keep going to it. And you're going to lose. You lost big this time. If you lose the midterms, rebrand yourself, because you ain't coming back as a Democrat. You come back as something else, but you ain't coming back as a Democrat. So with that, hopefully I do not have a technical problem again here tonight. And I can go and, hopefully not have a problem. And I get this out this evening sometime. But I thank you all. Anyone who's watching, please leave a message, even if you go, hey, shut the hell up. You don't know anything. You get to say something, and I get to answer it. And believe me, if you leave stuff like that, I will answer you. I am not. I wouldn't say I'm not a confrontational guy, but I will use facts. And it takes a lot to get my buttons pushed. And mostly the time, it's when you don't use facts and you let emotions, and we all have it. It all happens. But I'll never get overly serious about any comment made to me, unless it's about my weight. But or from Robert B. in New York. Doesn't matter. This is what this is about. This is about the exchange of ideas and opinion. And of course, my opinion is always right. So I know I'll come out on top. All right, everyone. Good night. Say a prayer for the victims of the hurricanes from Florida all the way up through Virginia, California. And if you're going to give a donation, please make sure you give it to a registered charity so that money goes to where that money's supposed to go. Very important. All right, everyone. My catchphrase is, I'll see you probably tomorrow night as I fade to black.